Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live on Monday and Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure, all Bookmap Limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure, trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. Also in Bookmap Discord, there's an Options-Jug chat channel. You can post questions, comments, and content related to the topics of my presentation and the topics of the channel that I'll go through in just a moment. I'm also on X. My name there is @Doug Pless. Here are the key tenets to my approach to trading. This is the basis of my approach to trading. I believe that options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. That certainly applies to the large cap tech stocks like the Magnificent Seven stocks, as well as the equity index futures like the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. And for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index, SPY is the ETF version of that index, and the ES futures contract is a derivative of SPX. And when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX and SPY, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with the ES futures. And for the NASDAQ 100, NDX is the underlying index, QQQ is the much more liquid ETF version of that index, and the NQ futures contract is a derivative of NDX. And just like the S&P 500, when traders buy and sell puts and calls in NDX and QQQ, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with NQ futures. The focus of my presentation today and the focus of the Options-Jug chat channel is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading. The first is planning, and I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned to the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as their directional bias. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis and for setups. And when I talk about setups today, I will be focusing on an underlying asset. Setups in that asset can be taken with futures contracts, shares of stock, or options, depending on the asset, as well as the way you like to trade. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Jug chat channel and Discord, as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. Please feel free to post. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Here's my agenda for today, Wednesday, July 16th. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data, and events for today, as well as the rest of the week. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. Then I'll take a look at the live market. If anyone has any stocks they want me to take a look at when I get to the live market, please let me know. I'll be glad to do that. All right, let's get started. There's a lot going on in the market today. It's been a very interesting past couple of days. So let's start off by taking a look at the S&P 500. Let's go back to the S&P 500, ES futures and Bookmap. And what I want to point out, actually, let's move on. Let's start with news. So let's go back. So PPI data came out, and let's take a look at the results. PPI data shown right here. PPI data came in lower than expected. Looks like lower than expected, lower than the previous number across the board for all the various PPI month-over-month, year-over-year measurements. And there was a bullish reaction of the market. Again, this is the ES futures. This is the PPI data. 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, bullish reaction. And then just like yesterday, a reaction, bearish reaction at the open, at the cash open. I'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. That was a key reversal yesterday. All right, so that is today. Coming up for the rest of the week, then I'll talk about what's been going on more recently. All right, so coming up for the rest of the week, and also this morning was VIX expiration, and then also banks reported earnings. Some of the large banks reported earnings this morning: Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. Then tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, retail sales come out, and also Taiwan Semiconductor reports earnings before the close, before the open tomorrow, and then Netflix reports earnings after the market closes. And then on Friday, more economic data in the morning, housing starts and building permits, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Then at 10 a.m., Michigan consumer sentiment. And then also Friday is options expiration. Let's take a look at that. So this chart shows market makers delta notional on the vertical axis, and then on the horizontal axis, expiration date. This is the July expiration. The orange bars are showing call or positive delta notional. Blue bar is showing put or negative delta notional. And this is clearly a another call-dominated options expiration. So that's this Friday, options expiration. And as to be expected with this recent rally, couple of months or more of rally, definitely call-dominated options expiration. All right, let's talk about what has been going on recently. So on Monday evening, Nvidia announced that the White House had approved them or given the green light for Nvidia to resume selling their AI chips to China. Nvidia rallied yesterday, and then also when the news came out Monday evening, right around 9:30, 10 a.m., the futures rallied as well, and then firmly rejected. SPX firmly rejected yesterday morning, just after the open, at the 6,300 call wall. More about that in a few minutes. All right, then what's going on today is the, I guess, a resumption of the Trump-Powell soap opera. Will Trump fire Powell or not? So, again, more news about that coming out. And let's take a look. All right, so I grabbed a couple of headlines. And where's that? Back over here. Grab a couple of headlines. This was the first one at just before 11 a.m. Caused this sharp drop. More headlines. And support right around the SPX 6200 large gamma 4 level. That was noted as support in the Spotgamma AM Founders Note. All right, so that's what's been going on in the world, and SPX has, and the S&P 500 and NASDAQ as well have recovered from the Trump-Powell news. Apparently now Trump is saying that it is highly unlikely that he will fire Powell. All right, so that is, again, what's been going on in the world. So now ES back toward the opening high, right around 6,300. That's ES 6,300. All right, before I take a closer look at this chart, let's step back. Let's take a look at a higher time frame. I'm going to go to SPX. So move on now to positional analysis. Start with SPX. Let's go to a 1 year, 1 day chart. Focus on the most recent price action. So very nice V-shaped recovery. Recovery complete from the drop after the February expiration. That's this line right here. And most recently, the rally resumed after the June expiration, and again finding resistance at the 6,300 call wall. So let's take a look at that. Let's go to a 30-day 1 hour chart. So this is yesterday. Whoops. Yesterday, resistance at the 6,300 call wall and a steady downtrend all day. And what was driving that, or helping to drive that, was this. This is the hero chart from yesterday for the S&P 500. This is the index signal. And I know Brent Kachuba at Spotgamma has talked about this pretty extensively, but this is a huge number. Delta notional almost negative 9 billion. So traders were taking negative delta options positions all day long, driving the S&P 500 lower. This is the regular trading hours. If you add in the extended trading hours, SPX and ES options do trade before the cash open. That was over 9 billion negative yesterday, helping to drive the market lower yesterday after that rejection at the 6,300 call wall again yesterday. So now the market is recovering. All right, so let's take a look at the levels on this chart. I'm going to start with the expected moves. Dashed purple line showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. This is based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from last Friday. Those levels remain in place for the entire week. Dashed blue line showing the lower and upper daily expected move. Also based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from yesterday. I do post those levels in Discord every day, the day before. And note, SPX is trading within that range, both ranges today. All right, let's take a look at the spot gamma levels on this chart. These are shown with the dark red lines. They're based on gamma-weighted open interest. They're provided to Spotgamma subscribers, available on a variety of trading platforms. This is Thinkorswim, again, a 30-day, 1 hour chart. I'm going to point out the key daily levels. First of all, the absolute gamma strike is at 6,000. That's the strike with the largest absolute positive and negative gamma. Next, above that is the put wall. It's 6180. That's the strike with the largest net negative gamma, and that can be expected to act as support. Next level up is the volatility trigger, and that is Spotgamma's proprietary volatility and gamma flip level. That is based on their older model. In their older model, for the volatility trigger, they're looking at negative gamma below, positive gamma above. So that's the volatility or gamma flip level. And it's we'll look at trace gamma in just a minute. It's just the opposite today. All right, so anyway, that is the volatility trigger. It's still an important level that can act as support and resistance, and it's definitely been in play for today. And then finally, the call wall is at 6,300. That's the strike that acted as resistance again yesterday. And that's the strike with the largest net positive gamma and can act as resistance, and it definitely did its job yesterday. All right, shifts in levels. The only level that shifted for SPX, the put wall did shift slightly lower yesterday, from yesterday to today, and the volatility trigger for SPY also shifted lower. So those were the only shifts in levels for the S&P 500. We'll take a look at SPY in just a minute. All right, let's wrap up our view of SPX first. Whoops. Meant to go to with a 1 minute chart. Here we go. And what I drew this in earlier today, kind of focusing on this support band right around 62.40, and with the news that came out about potential firing of Trump-Powell, price did break down below that level, now trading back above. All right, so that was a previous support band right around 62.40. And note, as SPX dropped, it traded just above that 6,200 level. That's a large Gamma 4 level. That was noted as support in the Spotgamma AM Founders note. Again, the volatility trigger definitely in play for today. There was a lot of price action chopping up and down around that this morning. Then it acted as resistance a couple of times. And now SPX trading back above that level, finding support at the 62.50 level. And the 62.50 level was noted as resistance. Let me zoom in on that. It may be a little bit easier to see. All right, so again, support right around 6,200 today. Volatility trigger resistance. And now price trading above that level and support at the 62.50 level. All right, let's take a quick look at the SPY chart. And I have zoomed out. I normally look at a 1 minute chart. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. I did go to a 5-day, actually a 10-day, 30-minute chart. I wanted to point out the importance of this 620 level. That is the SPY absolute gamma strike. And point out how it has acted as support for the last week. Price did briefly trade down below that level, but now again back above. So the 620 level for SPY, that's the absolute gamma strike, has been key. All right, let's go back to a 1 minute chart now. Let me zoom in on this. So again, overnight, right around 3 a.m., the 620 level acting as support. Other levels in play for SPY. Volatility trigger at 622. Again, that level did move down a couple of points. It was 624 yesterday. So the volatility trigger and absolute gamma strike. All right, that's SPY. All right, back to Bookmap now. So I focus on the SPX and SPY levels, and I do put those on my Bookmap chart. So there's that 6,200 support level. There's the volatility trigger. And then the 62.50 large gamma 3 level that is currently acting as support. So let's zoom in on this. So again, most recent 62.50 level acting as support. And note there is a difference in price between ES and SPX. And today that difference is about 40 points. So that's what I'm using. So that offset, ES to SPX offset is 40 points. So I'm showing SPX 62.50 at ES 62.90. All right, so those are levels in play for the S&P 500. Let's take a look at NASDAQ. Then we'll get to some setups. So NASDAQ, This is the NQ futures and Bookmap. Key support level for today was right around the NDX 22,700 put wall. Just below that is the NQ lower daily expected move, and then a QQQ level, and finally the NQ 850 level, 22,850. So a cluster of levels acting as support. Now it looks like NASDAQ finding resistance at the NDX 22,900 large gamma 3 level. All right, let's take a look at the underlying index charts before we spend more time with this chart. Let's go to take a look at QQQ. Take a look at the levels in play. Zoom in on this. All right, so for QQQ, the 550 level, that's a large gamma 3, 0 gamma level. And just above that is the 556 volatility trigger. Looks like that may be acting as support now. So that's QQQ. And let's take a look at NDX. And by the way, for QQQ, the volatility trigger and absolute gamma strike shifted higher, and the put wall shifted lower to 500, definitely out of play. Now let's take a look at NDX. All right, NDX, here's the put wall, 22,700. Price did move pretty substantially below that. 22,000 large gamma 2 level, around that level acting as support. And then price is also above the 22,840 volatility trigger. Zoom in on that. All right, so again, put wall. Price did breach that, but now trading back above. All right, back to NQ now. All right, so those are levels in play. Looks like I may have the NQ to NDX offset a little bit there according to the chart we just looked at. Price has not hit the NDX 22,900 level yet. So my offset may be off a little bit. Yeah, it looks like it has changed. I was using 165 this morning. It looks like it has gone out to 170 or 175. All right, again, we'll talk about setups in just a few minutes. Let's wrap up our positional analysis by taking a look at Gamma. I'm going to go to Trace. This is available to Spotgamma subscribers. This is the Gamma Heatmap. Blue shading is showing positive gamma, red shading showing negative gamma. And remember, in positive gamma, market makers are trading against price, so they're buying dips and selling reps, and that appears to be what has happened right here. Right around the 6,200 level, the positive gamma, as price dropped after the Trump-Powell news. SPX, this is SPX, found support in this positive gamma zone right at 6,200. And again, red shading above, showing, actually this is showing now mild positive gamma above. This is the hedge wall or the volatility trigger right here, showing mild positive gamma above that level. But again, on up above, red shading negative gamma. So looking for faster price movement if price breaks up toward the call wall, shown right here at 6,300. Let's go back in time just a little bit. Go back to 11:30, 12 o'clock. So you can see that reversal starting right around 6,200. The positive gamma is shown with the blue GEX bars over on the left and the blue shading over on the right. Note stability index at that time was 76%. Now it looks like it has dropped. And Nahal, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, asked, what is this software? Welcome, glad you're here. So what I'm looking at right now is Spotgamma. So I'm looking at a variety of tools. These are all web-based. This is Spotgamma. This is the Spotgamma Trace Gamma Heatmap. And then this is Bookmap. So I use both of these tools, Bookmap and Spotgamma. And I've combined the two in my trading process. All right, so we know positive gamma support down below and potential red negative gamma up above for potential faster movement. If price gets going, traders start buying calls and selling puts and move price up back up to 6,300, the call wall. All right, let's take a look at some setups. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. And I'm going to go to Hero here, Hedging Impact Real-Time Options. And what this, I'm going to shift to total first. All right, so what this chart is showing us, options trades and market maker hedging activity for the S&P 500 index components. And remember, I showed you a chart from yesterday showing huge negative delta notional at minus 9 billion. And today it is much more tame, positive 1.1 billion. All right, so pretty choppy chart altogether today. But you can see from at the open here, traders were taking slightly negative delta options positions. So what this chart is showing, white line is price for SPX, and the purple line, that's the hero signal showing options trades and market maker hedging activity again for the S&P 500 index components, SPX, ES, SPY, and XSP. And this really starts to drop. So a falling purple line is showing traders are taking negative delta options positions. They are buying puts and or selling calls. And then a rising hero signal indicates they are taking positive delta options positions. They are buying calls and or selling puts. All right, I'm going to shift to puts and calls now to get a little bit more clarity. And I'm going to have to jump back to avoid the auto zoom. Zoom in again. So you can see from the open, traders were buying puts, that's shown by the falling blue line, that accelerated down right around 940. Initially, they were buying calls, and then at 940 started selling calls. So at that point, at 940 on, that's bearish momentum when both the blue line and the orange line move in the same direction. And that continued to somewhere between 10:05 and 10:10 when traders stopped selling calls, started buying calls, stopped buying puts, start selling puts, and price reversed higher. All right, let's go to Bookmap. Let's zoom in. So just about the first hour. All right, so we know, let's go check that time again. The reversal was between 10:05 and 10:10. So ES made a series of lower highs, nice breakdown just below 6,300. That's ES 6,300. And then a little bit of support at SPY 623. Then more lower highs, another breakdown down below the SPY 622 volatility trigger. So that's a short in the morning. And again, remember, the hero flow shifted from negative delta to positive delta somewhere between 10:05 and 10:10. So there's that reversal higher. And during this time, this is cumulative volume delta, this dark blue line that was falling. Then also the yellow line showing stop orders that was falling as well. So aggressive sellers as well as sell stop orders were helping to fuel that move lower. And initially, large traders were selling with iceberg orders they used to hide their size. And then as price continued to drop, they started buying the dip. Pretty typical behavior for large traders with iceberg orders. And price reversed higher. All right, so that was pretty clear this morning. And then after that, it's just been pretty choppy in the indexes. Again, very headline-driven market today. News, more news, more news. All right, so we'll take a look at the live market in just a few minutes. So right now it looks like, again, most recent price action support at the SPX 6250 level. Looks like S&P 500 testing that level again. And then the heat map and Bookmap showing some sellers above. Right around 6298 to 6300. Those are limit sell orders in the order book. All right, let's go to NASDAQ now. And for NASDAQ, I forgot to mention, for NDX, all four key daily levels shifted higher. So that is very bullish for NASDAQ. All right, let's take a look and see what options traders have been doing in NASDAQ. And note, I did stick with the S&P 500 index signal this morning, the equity signal. Initially this morning was moving in the opposite direction of the S&P 500. This is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for the S&P 500 index stocks, all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 index. And now it is finally right around 1140, kind of in sync with price action. Right now, this is showing traders are buying S&P 500. They were buying S&P 500 calls, selling puts, and then they took their foot off the gas right around 120. Currently selling calls, buying puts. So bullish momentum on the way up. Now bearish momentum. Note also the flow alert that came in signals a potential shift in hedging flow from positive delta in this case to negative delta. That's exactly what happened. So it looks like the call line may be flattening out. We'll take a closer look at that in just a couple of minutes. Let's go to NASDAQ. So just like the S&P 500, there are two hero signals that we can take a look at. This is the NASDAQ signal showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for the NASDAQ index components, NDX and QQQ. You can see this was bearish in the morning. Traders were buying puts, shown by the falling blue line, selling calls, shown by the falling orange line. And that did turn around somewhere between 10 and 10:10. Let's go take a look at NASDAQ, NQ Futures and Bookmap. So there's the short setup at the cash open as traders, whoops, wrong tool. Traders were taking negative delta options positions. Aggressive sellers start to come in. Volume dots in Bookmap show market buy minus sell. And magenta dots indicate more sellers than buyers. So the aggressive sellers came in right at 9:30. You can see sharply dropping cumulative volume delta. That's the magenta line there. Also sell stop orders fueling that move lower. And then again, remember the hedging flow shifted from negative delta to positive delta. And then after that, price was pretty much reacting to news. All right, current price action. Finding resistance. This is showing the 900 level. Let me check my spreadsheet. Let me check. That should be 70. So that'll update in less than a minute. All right, so current price action. Again, this is showing resistance at the 22,900 level. That's NDX. And support at the QQQ 556 volatility trigger. All right, let's take a look at some stocks, then we'll get back to the live market. And let's take a look at Apple. I'm going to take a quick look. I've got several stocks I want to take a look at. If anybody has any questions, let me know. All right, so this is Apple. And the trade this morning was a reversal higher. And again, I looked at this in the morning, reversal higher at the 210 key gamma strike. Let's see what options traders are doing. And again, I looked at this before all the news came out. So let's take a look at Apple. Let's see what options traders are doing. So this is a very bullish setup here. Support at the 210 key gamma strike. A couple of flow alerts come in, get your attention. Just after the second flow alert, traders start aggressively buying calls, also selling puts. And then price reverses. This is a call peak pattern, very bearish reversal pattern. Traders abruptly stop buying calls, start selling calls, either taking profits, taking profits, or just the call sellers come in. But then, so that was bullish momentum on the way up, then bearish momentum on the way down. So a couple ways to play this. First of all, if you caught the move up from the 210 key gamma strike or the reversal, so two ways, bullish, support of the 210 key gamma strike, or the bearish call peak reversal pattern. All right, so that's Apple. Next stock I want to take a look at is Meta. So let's go to Meta here. Go to Bookmap. Note the limit sell order here, sell orders that were filled at, looks like that's right around 705.50. Kind of unusual to see such a large number of limit orders, not on a round number, just above the 705 level. So that's, anyway, let's take a look at Meta. So Meta was a bearish setup this morning, a bearish opening drive. Let's see what options traders are doing. Go to Meta. Zoom in just to this. So traders were selling calls. Full alert comes in. Traders selling calls. Market makers buy the calls. They have to sell stock to hedge their delta exposure. And then price eventually traded on down to the 700 key gamma strike as traders continued to sell calls. So now Meta trading above that 700 key gamma strike. And traders do continue to sell calls. So back to Meta. So far in Meta today, about a 13-point drop from high to low. All right, next stock, Microsoft. And for Microsoft, let's see what options traders are doing. And the key was support at this 502.50. See, that's the, let's go back to Hero. Key was support at the 502.50 put wall. Sorry about that. Kind of unusual to have a put wall at a not a round number in such a high price stock, but it just shows you the importance of these levels. So price did break down below that level later in the day, but it was not a lot of range of movement, but also a bearish opening drive. This was also bearish momentum with both the blue line and the orange line moving down, quick move down, and a target at the 502.50 put wall. Flow alert comes in, signals significant options activity, get your attention. All right, so there's that bearish opening drive. Whoops, keep grabbing the wrong tool. Bearish opening drive, bearish momentum down to the 502.50 put wall. All right, next stock, Nvidia. Again, Nvidia in the news. With the green line to start selling their AI chips to China customers again. Let's see what options traders are doing today. Go to Nvidia. All right, so kind of a mild bearish opening drive, bearish momentum. Traders are selling calls and buying puts. Nvidia spent a lot of time trading around the 170 key gamma strike. Now it's trading back above that level. So it did trade up and down below that level. And let's see if we can take a look at why. So this is the equity hub. This is for Nvidia. Showing very strong positive gamma right here at the 170 level. So again, remember, positive gamma, market makers are trading against price. So with such large positive gamma, price tends to pin around that level. And that was what was happening today, earlier today. Let's go back to Bookmap. There's the 170 level. Price trading up and down around that level, now moving back above that level. All right, stock of the day, Tesla. Just the opposite yesterday. Nice short setup yesterday and a nice long setup today. All right, note for Tesla, 320 is the call wall, and that was the target for long this morning. Let's see what options traders are doing. Note also the rising cumulative volume delta, shown by all the green volume dots as well as the rising cumulative volume delta, so aggressive buyers buying shares. Kathy Wood with ARK Investments, usually in there buying Tesla. So let's see what options traders are doing. Let's go back to Hero. Go to Tesla. So this is showing traders are aggressively buying calls, selling puts. They did take the foot off the gas, Tesla made a pretty deep pullback there. Then traders resumed buying calls, taking Tesla up to the 320 call wall. Now Tesla trading just at that level. Flow alert comes in just after the open, get your attention. And I definitely take a look at these flow alerts just after the cash open, looking for significant options activity to drive price action. So we've seen plenty of examples of that today, the flow alerts. All right, so again, bullish momentum, bullish opening drive up to the 320 call wall level that you expect to act as resistance. And price did stall at that level as traders stopped buying calls. They took the foot off the gas, stopped selling puts, and initially they started buying few puts. Now both the blue line and the orange line are flat as Tesla trades around that level, the 320 level. Let's go to Bookmap. All right, so there's the 320 level. And Tesla trading just below that level right now. All right, I've got a couple more stocks that I want to take a look at. These are crypto related. First is Circle. Of course, the stablecoin play. Very bullish today. Looks like I need to add more lines to price lines to move my lines, price lines. Let's see what options traders are doing. So huge move up from right around 202 at the open up to 235 so far. Let's see what options traders are doing in Circle. They're buying calls. Traders are buying calls. Market makers sell the calls. They have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. Note also that Circle is trading above the 200 call wall. It's shown right here, 200 key gamma strike call wall. So traders are long calls, market makers short calls. Calls, the highest amount of calls concentrated at the 200 level. So as those calls go deeper in the money, market makers' delta notional becomes more negative. They have to continue to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. So that is another element driving price higher, but definitely a huge day. So I would say maybe even Circles, maybe stock of the day as call buyers continue to drive price higher in Circle. And last stock I want to take a look at is Robinhood. Not a direct crypto play, but somewhat of a crypto play. And regarding crypto, of course, I'm sure everybody is aware that the the House, was considering 3 bills related to crypto yesterday, and they did not, they failed a procedural hurdle yesterday. So I think they're still under consideration. And I haven't heard any news today regarding these 3 bills. One was the Genius Act about stablecoins. All right, so bullish opening drive in Hood today. Also trading above its call wall. Full alert. Hood trading above the call wall. Aggressive call buyers take the foot off the gas. And Hood consolidates. Now it looks like the call buyers have come back in. So let's go take a look at Bookmap. Go to Hood. All right, so there's the bullish opening drive. Deep pullback. Aggressive buyers start to come back in. Taking Hood up to the liquidity levels. Limit sell orders that come in typically at the cash open up to 103 and then 104. Deep pullback and now back up to 104. Are any questions, comments? Anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at? All right, so plenty of examples today of stocks, options driving stocks. Let's go back to the indexes now. Oh, so it looks like now ES is briefly broken down below the 6250 level. There were some limit buy orders there. Let me darken up the heat map just a little bit. So it looks like those buy orders were consumed. Let's see what options traders are doing. So let's go back. I'm going to shift to the total signal. We'll go first of all check the equity signal. All right, so again, remember this flow alert that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Not a sharp reversal, but traders stop taking positive delta options positions and are now continuing to take negative delta options positions. Duzman, welcome, glad you're here. Ask, could you please explain what those lines mean? Tell me which lines which lines are you asking about? Are you asking about the lines on this chart, the hero chart? Let's go to the the ones on Bookmap, how they are created. All right, so just quickly, this is the index signal. So this is showing the S&P 500 index signal. Choppy, but overall pretty flat. All right, so let's go to Bookmap. Back to ES. All right, so I've talked about the levels that I'm looking at based on SPY and SPX. So I looked at the underlying index charts for SPY, SPX. Those are the levels that I concentrate my focus on when I'm looking at ES or any form of the S&P 500, SPY and SPX levels. This is where gamma-weighted open interest is concentrated, and this is where market makers' hedging activity may have to shift based on the high gamma concentration at those levels. All right, the way I show these on Bookmap is I use an add-on called Price Lines. Price Lines add-on. So what this chart is showing is I've pointed to this file, the CSV file, that has all the data for price lines. So that's where I add the information every morning in the CSV file to show these levels. And then the ratio, the index relationships do change every day. So again, the index relationships for ES to SPX, for example, that changes. It's a little bit smaller every day until the next expiration rollover. That would be in September. So we're trading the September contract now, and that ES to SPX relationship will get a little bit smaller. The cost of carry gets a little bit smaller as expiration approaches. All right, so I'm showing SPX 6245 at ES 6285. All right, let me show you my spreadsheet. I did show this a little bit earlier. And this is something that may be meaningless to somebody unless you've looked at this for a while. And this is just, you can, if you use this add-on, you can make a spreadsheet any way you want. But this controls both the level and the way the lines are drawn. So I'm drawing dashed lines, setting up the weight of the lines. That's also controlled with the add-on. But here's that 6245 level. So this is how I'm showing that. So initially this morning I was using 41 points. That's from yesterday. And that's what I'm showing over on the right on this column. That doesn't matter. And then I subtracted 1 from that to get the relationship for today. And then I will update this before the end of the day. But I'm showing the 6245 volatility trigger at ES 6285. So that's how I draw the lines on my chart. And then I get the lines from Spotgamma, or the levels from Spotgamma. So that's shown. Let me show you that. Let's go back. We go back to market overview, close this. So I get these levels right here. So this is part of my morning preparation. There's that 6245 volatility trigger. Note Spotgamma is still using 6286. That's the 41 point offset from yesterday. Today it is 40 points. So that's what I'm using. All right, so Duzman, I hope that answers your question. That's where I get the levels. That's how I show them on the Bookmap chart. And then I've talked about why I show those as well. Let's go back to Hero. All right, so now it looks like the index signal is ticking higher. And then the latest little move here on the equity signal also moving higher. Let's check trace. I'm going to go to Charm. Let's see if we can figure out where SPX might end at the end of the day. All right, so this is showing red selling pressure above due to Charm, due to time decay, the passage of time, options expire as time passes. So potential pinning targets. I'm looking for an area of blue buying support below, red selling pressure above. Here's one right here, right around the 6245 volatility trigger. So that would be one potential pinning target. And that would be associated with this GEX bar right here. Then we've got a couple up above. 6260 and 65. And that would be maybe a pinning target just above there. So based on the movement now, unless some more news comes out, looks like pinning target somewhere in this range right here, with the most likely being the 6245 to 6250 level. All right, back to Bookmap. So that that does depend on what options traders and other buyers and sellers do toward the end of the day. All right, last call for questions, comments. Duzman, did I answer your question? Let's check NASDAQ. All right, so NASDAQ, great. You're welcome. All right, so NASDAQ trading at a range. between the 556 volatility trigger and the 900 large gamma 3 level. Yeah, that shift to 70 did help there. All right, so quiet afternoon after a very wild, choppy morning. Trader HE, welcome. Glad to see you here. Haven't seen you in a while. Trader HE says, good stuff. Thank you very much for your kind words, Trader HE. Again, very glad to see you here. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Everyone have a great afternoon. And I will see you on Monday. Remember, options expiration on Friday. And we can talk about it on Monday. All right, thanks again. Bye.